From the Pixie Dust Studio in Minneapolis, Minnesota, welcome to the I See Hope, Empowering Positive Change podcast. I am Lori Lorenz, Human Energy Engineer, and your host for today's episode, Destiny Updates with Wes Hamilton. We are talking about week 23 of 2020 and mastering healthy boundaries during COVID-19. You can think of it as being together. Our co-host and featured speaker today is Wes Hamilton, Master Numerologist and Chief Spiritual Officer for Core Passion, Inc. He provides insight, guidance, and spiritual support. He reveals how ancient mathematics connects to timelines, showing us where and when to focus our time and energy. Welcome, Wes.
Hi, you made it through May, huh? Okay, good.
Yes, we did. We're in June. Yay!
Yeah, boy, when I wrote that May forecast about radical change, I had no idea what the numbers were trying to tell us. Oh my God.
Yes, we've had quite the month. We've had, of course, the COVID-19 that was totally locked down and extended, but now it's starting to open up. That was a big change.
Yeah.
And spring in Minnesota, we could see climate change for what the spring was going on. Crazy burst of growth. And then SpaceX. We have people who are docking and are at the space station right now.
Yeah, they're the only two that got wise to get out of here. So,
and then we've also, go ahead.
I think our current crisis that we're in was the final frosting on the cake of May. It's like, wow, we were just starting to deal and work with and live with COVID-19. We were starting to get into a rhythm of practicing healthy boundaries and working from home and getting used to Netflix movies every night and happy hours at 5, and all of that was becoming a pattern and a rhythm. And then we had the crisis in the streets here in Minneapolis that changed our world forever as far as how we relate to each other. And the energy of May is a 5, and 5s are all about change. But the thing that made it radical in May was it was a 5-month in a 4-year, which means it's a 9 energy. And 9s are about when to hang on and when to let go, and a lot of high drama, trying to figure out when to hang on and let go. So, boy, that last week in May was awful.
Right. And I think some of it was lessons we hadn't ever addressed as much as we needed to.
A lot of lessons going on with our 9-year cycle of trying to learn how to be more humanitarian. Mm-hmm. Wow, what a kickoff to that thing it is. Now June is here, our 6th month of the year. And June is about having heartful connections, and a lot more weddings happen, and commitments and family gatherings and barbecues and going to the lake or wherever you go to enjoy life together. However, now we have to learn how to cool down. Reminded me of boiling eggs. We put eggs in the pot in May and turn the heat up and boil, and they jump around and bounce around. And then when they're done, you gotta throw some ice on them to keep them from cooking to death. So June, it's time to throw some ice on the intense heat of radical change, I guess. So
and
June
also, June's a reflection month too. As you get together, you tell stories and hopefully learn something from what you've just been through.
Yeah. And with the new beginning, with the 6 energy of June and the 4 energy of the year, or the year, what we need to do is take a deep breath and start in a new direction. It's an opportunity for us to shift our reality again, to come together, to let go of the crazy violence that's going on. The thing that happens with violence, or the reason why violence, in my mind, comes into our life is because people become separated. There's a division that happens between the good guys and the bad guys, and the right and the wrong, and the justice and the injustice, and so forth. And if somehow we can come to the middle of that with healthy boundaries, because that's what I'm talking about in June, how do you manifest or manage or master healthy boundaries? It's an art form.
Yes, and
It's a
I know
lot of
that people want to get involved, but how do they get involved in a healthy way? A lot of people in the neighborhood I'm in Uptown, all got out their brooms and went a few blocks to Lake Street and helped clean up broken glass,
yeah,
and they just decided their boundary was, this is my neighborhood,
yeah.
and I love my neighborhood, and that's within my boundary to take care of. They had a sense of ownership and commitment to help their neighbors with their businesses.
Yeah, that's the coming together part. So there was a lot of people that, I guess, created quite a void between serenity and peace and terror and fear. And it usually happens at night under the darkness. But by nature, people really want to come together and help each other. And that's really fun to see. And I've heard many, many stories. People have been on TV, they're sending me emails, they're giving me texts. Many, many fun things are happening randomly that lets me know that there's a good heart in most people. There was, I guess, a lot of activity like on Lake Street yesterday, but the day before, there was a motorcycle gang I heard of that was at a coffee shop somewhere near the Eye of Horus, which is a metaphysical spiritual shop. And the protesters, the violent ones, were going to start tearing the place apart. And the gang just stood there in front of those buildings and said, "No, you're not." And it's like, oh. And then I saw a fun little thing that opened my heart to everybody really does care at some level. Another group of people found that one of the police officers got separated from the group and they were going to do harm to protesters. And a group of, I think maybe motorcycle gang people again, I'm not sure, they look like big guys. They formed a protective ring around this police officer and wouldn't let anybody hurt him. So it was really interesting to watch how in the middle of violence, people really want to do the right thing when they're in the right mind frame. That's what June's about.
Yes.
Opening your heart and opening your mind and finding a way to come back together again.
Yes, and the trick is everybody's different, and you need to figure that out for yourself, right? Where is your boundary? What does it look like? What would you recommend someone do to help figure out an awareness and get in touch with that? You don't want to be like you're boiling eggs in the hot water and having to figure it out. It'd be good to know that before you get there.
Yeah, it's taking a look at, are you different or are you unique? Because unique people are really fun to get to know. And different people are also really fun to get to know because they have a whole different perspective than most of the people. So I love one of the things I saw this morning on Facebook with a picture of planet Earth. If you mess this up, where are we going to live? So, yeah, June is about opening our hearts and coming together and kumbaya and Ubuntu, that energy of we need to help each other, to support each other. I love seeing those hundreds and hundreds of bags of food for all the people that are homeless now and terrorized and so forth. I'm not sure what we can do in addition to protesting other than be a little more active in our community, to speak up for ourselves, maybe have some open air chats, more like what we're doing, to let, I guess, the world know where we stand, more podcasts, more impromptu YouTube channels. We got to do something to let the powers that think they're in charge know that that's just about over with. That's what this 9-year cycle is about, is becoming more humanitarian. And of course, as most of us know who's done personal relationship work and interpersonal work, we gotta first of all have a breakdown before we have the breakthrough. And we're really doing a good job with the breakdown right now.
Well, innovation always happens when people come together and share ideas. And that's where, adversity creates great inventions to solve problems, right? And we haven't done too much in the humanitarian side in reinventing our culture, reinventing our social systems. There's been a lot of widgets, but not too many heart-opening events.
Yeah, I know we have our state fair, which we don't get to have this year, showing people the world, how different cultures come together to create a great experience. I think that's one of our better merging of cultures. There was, maybe it still is, that cultural building in Minneapolis where Sears used to be, where you have cultures around the world with their products and foods. And Lori and I used to love going down there to enjoy the different ethnic groups.
Yeah, global market's going to be rebuilt, so.
Oh, is it? Good.
Yeah. Now, one of the things we're doing is getting together online, and more social media pops up. More people have time in their hands, so they're making content to share with everyone so people get to see them. So a lot of these stories that were happening that if you weren't part of their group, you wouldn't get to hear, we're going to get to hear.
Yeah, community is really becoming important, and at least I'm seeing it online. Lori and I are following a couple of gurus on how to rebuild our business online, and it's the community part people crave. And I think we talked about it last week, 2 weeks ago, maybe not. Lori and I were watching, we're part of a group, global group, and we got to break into small little groups of 8 to 10 people and discuss where we're at with our business and what are we doing, and learning from each other all over the world.
Right. The Muse mentioned you got to connect to bunches of different people through a Zoom call.
It was the first time in my life I've talked with people around the world about a common thing that we were all interested in, and we all wanted to help each other. It's like, wow, look at that.
Nice. It'd be great to have more of that, more opportunities to do that.
That's what the Muse and I are doing. We're really working on getting our own little global unit put together for communities. So stay tuned. We're learning how.
Yes, well, that's a healthy boundary too, is, the boundary has changed. It used to be who you could see, who was within so many miles of your house. Now we're a global community, and the boundary isn't there for some things where it is there for other things. So that's fascinating, is just being aware of where your boundary is for a certain situation.
Yeah.
And I remember in your 6 practices when you were talking about journaling, how you reflect every day, and that helps you with your mindset. And, we're trying to do that manifesting mastery piece and mastering manifesting. Part of it is self-awareness.
Self-awareness, and then what do you really want? What do you want? And if you can put words to that and create a little affirmation for yourself, that was part of the Pivot Your Mindset practice, one of the 6 steps. It's like, put in writing what you want and say it each day out loud.
Well, for me, in this time, I wanted a safe place to go during this chaos that I knew I could support the people around me and vice versa. And I went to my son's house, and they have a fourplex. So I was within the 10 people limit, right? And everybody helped the neighborhood watch for anyone who shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And that helped everybody feel safe, stay safe, as well as bring the community together in a healthy way. And thankfully, it was a very quiet night, especially, as things are going, but you have to stay vigilant.
We do. And I was asking the Muse this morning over morning coffee, because she said, this reminds me of the Vietnam protests. And I said, well, how long did those protests last? I was part of it too, but I was so busy working, and I was in the Air Force at that time, and I wasn't part of the protest. I was part of the solution. And she said, oh, it lasted for months, almost a year, 2 years. Like, really? You mean we're just getting started with these protests? I'd like to shorten up the protest part and find a way to become more active, because protests seem like it's right or wrong. And I'd like to see more people come together to find solutions instead of just complaining.
Right. And part of it is raising awareness. That's very important. And also part of it is processing your emotions in a healthy way.
Yeah.
For the people protesting, that's important.
Yeah.
And the whole freedom of speech part and that feeling like you're part of something, those are all important. I would encourage, the boundary we're talking about. Okay, you've got the issue, but now let's go out, move the threshold a little bit, right? The extent of that boundary, one more notch, and brainstorm solutions. Who do we need involved to help us with this? It could be like you're there saying, hey, I agree this is an issue, and that's my part is awareness, but I have no idea how to solve it.
Right.
But I'm going to support someone who comes up with a solution that meets all of our needs, right? So let's look at journaling. If everybody's going to start thinking about, well, how can I be part of the solution?
Yeah.
Being together and supporting each other, I think that might be a really good journaling question for this week. Okay. Should we do a card draw?
Yeah, let's do the card draw. That's always been fun and effective.
Yes, and this is the Quest deck again that we've been talking about. And this is something that was created at the same time as the Core Passion Assessment. And I'll hold that up for everybody to see. This is
yeah, that's our favorite go-to.
Right.
All the answers are in that book for whatever you want to know.
These cards. So the idea is you draw 3 cards. The first card, this is tapping your intuition, to give a voice to your intuition. Yep. And we ask a really good question. And in this case, what do I need to know about creating a healthy boundary?
That would be the question for June. Yeah.
For June. And Wes and I drew these cards before.
Shuffle them up really good with that intention.
Yes. And then
draw them randomly.
Yeah, you draw 3 cards with your eyes shut, right? With your left hand. So the first card is environment. What's going on? What's the context, right?
Yep. Where are you at right now, and what are you standing in right now?
So the first card was having security, which is a form card and a west direction. You can see the little guy with his hammer and his little box right there. That's
why we have boundaries, because we want to feel safe and secure.
Yes, and having security is on everybody's mind right now.
Yeah.
It feels like it's threatened from every direction.
And inside and out. The bug is inside and the violence is outside. I mean, where do we go now?
Right. And that's part of the environment. If it's not a safe environment, it's time to fix some problems, right? Right.
That's the purpose of exploring a healthy boundary.
All right. So the next question, or the next step, is card number 2, which is an action card. What could you do in this environment to know your healthy boundary, right?
Yes.
So the second card was seeking true essence.
Essence.
And
Oh,
this is an enlightenment card from the North.
getting to the heart of the matter from more of an enlightened sense from your inner wisdom, your inner spirit, your intuition. Yeah, that's what you need.
Greater good.
Greater
And,
good.
and it's buried, right? It's true essence. You got to dig for this. So to me, the action isn't so much going out as much as it's coming in.
Exactly.
So looking inside, your answers are always inside, right?
Always the good ones are.
Yes, the last place you're going to look. So let's say we do this. Let's say we go, oh, I need security. Where can I find it? And you say, well, if I look inside and I'll find out exactly what I consider the most important to me.
Yep.
And where, that pivot point is for making decisions and setting my threshold. So the result, here we go.
What will happen?
Being of service.
Oh.
Service card, south direction.
Caring and nurturing, healing and teaching, bringing people together for June. Perfect.
And that's what we, in this point in time, knowing how we can be of service, right?
Yeah,
and
service to ourselves and then service to our family and friends and service to the community. I think it's time for all of us to find out what can we do for the greater good in addition to just for ourselves. And because there's so many factions out there, there are many groups that believe they're doing for the greater good. And the other groups like, oh, really, you're messing with the greater good. So I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but that's where you've got to reach inside and find what's your greater good from the inside and then truly support that.
And I also, hear the part about the one tribe being together. We're all in this together. So if you change that threshold again of where that boundary is, saying, oh, let's put our arms around everybody. And if you're looking at it from that direction, you go, wait a minute, this doesn't help this one group over here. In fact, it squashes them. That's not any good.
No.
So
I hope we don't need anything so drastic that to come together to realize we're all one on planet Earth. I hope we don't, for our next tragedy, have the space aliens attack us like many of the old movies were, that we're like, oh, we better stay together because now those guys aren't like us.
Well, the poor space aliens have no idea what they're getting into. And they're going to have to wear masks. They're going to have to stay 6 feet away and cannot congregate in more than 10 people in one place at one time.
I think they're so much smarter. They have no plans to come here.
Well, you never know. When it's time, it's time. And for right now, that true essence is unity. That true essence is greater good.
Yeah, June's time to come together, the Kumbaya, have dinners together, let the bug go away. Just healthy boundaries are about keeping us socially safe, and the healthy boundaries of coming together, I think we need each other. We have been separated, most of us, for 90 days. That's a long time without infusion of other energies. And it's so interesting going to the supermarket. Everybody's wearing a mask. Nobody says anything. It's like we're in the twilight zone in there. Can't pay cash. You got to check out. Nobody touches anything. There's glass in front of everybody. So,
right. But we'll rise above it. I can feel that.
That's what June's about. Take down the fears and the healthy social distancing, plastic between everybody. Let's get back together. That's what June's about, really.
Yes. And I believe we can do it. I feel that innovation's just around the corner. We're thinking of new things all the time. And this is just something to get us out of our complacency.
And as we come back together, there'll be some things that we overstep our healthy boundaries, and then we'll have a reset in July because that's what the numbers tell me. We got to, whoops, I think I stepped in something I shouldn't have. So July is about more inner reflection. But for June, it's time to come outside, feel the sunshine. We have the summer solstice. We've got a longest day to be together. So I know we celebrate that every year. We're part of a group that's
Okay, Wes, I'm sorry, but I think you cut out there for just a little bit. The longest day of the year for summer solstice.
together, be together, to socialize, be together with a healthy boundary. We'll see what it looks like this year, but for many years we have celebrated the summer solstice in many different ways, with large bonfires, with families, with groups coming together that we didn't know each other, sharing food, sweat lodges. We've done many things. So this year, let's keep up the mojo to enjoy each other and stay healthy with our boundaries.
Yes, and journal, meditate, take walks, all those healthy things to really make sure that you're in a good place. So when you're with others, you can help them be in a good place too.
Yep, set the vibration and radiate it out for others to enjoy. Yeah.
Yes. So this week, this month, all about the healthy boundaries, we're going to talk about different ways to have healthy boundaries. And by just being aware of it, people are going to start noticing, oh, there's a boundary. Oh, there's a boundary. And then they get to set the dial, the little slider. Okay, where's my threshold of that boundary? Where am I going with that?
Yeah, next time we get together, let's talk about the different areas where we want to explore our boundaries.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, Wes, thank you so much for joining me on this call and finding hope in the chaos of switching from May to June. And I believe the journaling is going to show a lot of things for people.
Yeah, it's always that self-reflection that has the biggest ahas.
Very good. Well, you have a great week.
Thanks. Talk soon.
You have been listening to the I See Hope podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Visit us online at iseehope.world, where you can subscribe to our podcast, our newsletter, read blog articles, and so much more.